Hello and welcome to highlights of the 75th Gent Wevelgem. Now raced a week ahead of the Tour of Flanders, this one-day event has grown in importance in recent years and is the last real test before the most important Belgian cobbled classic of them all. It's part of the UCI World Tour, so all 19 World Tour teams took part, alongside 6 teams invited from pro-continental level, the second division of cycling. In a Mega Pharma Quick-Step colours, 2012 victor Tom Bonham was still looking for top form and would be hoping to find it here. Sky had a former winner in the shape of Austrian rider Bernie Eisel, but could also boast the likes of Thomas, Wassenhorgen, Sutton and Stannard. Elsewhere, Radio Shack's Fabian Cancellara would find it difficult to repeat the win he picked up in the E3 Harelbeke race just 2 days previous. BMC were riding for Tour Hussoft, but could also count on the services of world champion Philippe Gilbert and Greg van Avermaet. No shortage of quality, with all the teams bringing packed rosters. Peter Sagan has had to settle for second place twice in the last week, narrowly missing out at San Remo before winning the sprint behind Cancellara's solo E3 escape to victory. This race, often casually referred to as a Sprinters Classic, and a weather-affected parcours that meant that many predicted Mark Cavendish and Andre Greipel would fight it out in a bigger-than-normal bunch sprint, with the hills to climb and perhaps the coldest conditions that most of these guys have ever raced in, always the potential for the racing to take on an unpredictable nature. So they would line up in Histel after half an hour's bus transfer, a little later on down the road, heading straight towards the coast. A very fast start, 51 kilometres covered in the first hour. So as far as the route is concerned, shortened to 183 kilometres due to bad weather. Around 50 k's chopped off. It was that sign-in as usual. Then the coast road down through Ostend, Newport and Rustbrugge. One ascent of the Kasselberg has been cancelled out, so it's now 9 Hellinkernor climbs that include a couple of circuits around the Monteberg, Bannenberg and Kemmelberg. In total, 183 kilometres into the small town of Wevelgem, just down the road from Wevelgem and Harelbeke, the last couple of venues of our racing over the last few days. And it's been pretty interesting as to what's happened so far. We had a first break of 24 riders fairly early on in the race. The wind's playing havoc when they're along the course. A deluxe composition, the likes of Cavendish were there, Bonen there as well. 25 riders behind, including the man you can see on your screen, the British champion Ian Stannard. Those two groups have come together now, and over to tell you exactly what's going on the course this afternoon. It's a good afternoon to my colleague in the commentary box, Jonathan Harrispass.
Well, thank you very much, Rob. As you say, that deluxe breakaway has finally been reeled in. There are now 53 riders out in front as they come towards the first of the 9 bergs that they'll be taking on in today's race. 98 kilometres still left to run here at the finish. It is the Kasselberg that they will be taking on first, though, in this short sojourn into France that this particular race makes before they make their way back into Belgium, into Flanders and through to the finish here.
Well, it's good to see a group of real quality riders out here, and invariably in recent years this race has ended in a sprint. It's a long way to the finish line after the final climb. All of the bergs condensed into a space of just 60 kilometres in this race. But out of this group, we've got the winner from the other day, Fabian Cancellara. There's Juan Antonio Fletcher, there's Matti Breschel. There are riders who can make a run for it, and of course expect the attacks, probably in vain, but expect them anyway, towards the end of this race. Now, Andrei Grivko on the right-hand side for Astana, Ukrainian champion riding away. Just being followed at the moment by his rival from BMC, who is Michael Scher. Michael Scher and Ian Stannard, the top 2 in that group. So, a couple of groups starting to come together as they ride up the Kasselberg. Team cars being told to get out the way on the race radio.
92 kilometres to go as they reach the top of the Kasselberg climb, and then it'll be the swifter descent and missing out the loop that is usually part of this race, and then heading down back towards the border, and then they'll come back into Flanders before reaching what is definitely one of the most decisive moments in Gent Wevelgem every single year, and that is the loop around the Kemmelberg.
Ooh, a little bit of naughty, nasty bike handling going on there from Ian Stannard, who might have been worried there. Just lost control briefly. It's just one of those days. There is, unfortunately, the prospect of the odd bit of ice still being on the road. And as far as that's concerned, the DS, the Director Sportif from Omega Pharma Quickstep, Wilfred Peters, has actually said that if a rider has an accident, if a rider falls because of any ice, then the peloton will stop and the race will not continue. So let's hope, first for safety and then second for the fact that we can have a race to watch here, that doesn't happen. Well, the pace really picking up here. Everybody jockeying for position. There's 91 Ks to go. But again, the race in just an unstable moment. And it's pretty important as to see which break, if any, forms again. Now, Matt Heyman, we've seen him on the front for so long this week in various different races. He's wrapped up again there. And look at this, peloton split into 4 clear groups, as we can see.
And each group, in turn, is trying to pull it along to catch up with those front riders. Just Cannondale making the move now to bring that second group back into contention with Group 1, but they really are splintering there.
Well, so many big names in the mix here today that it's difficult to let any group go away without anything too much happening. The presence of Peter Sagan up there at the minute is making sure that there is plenty of movement behind. You can see the wind really affecting things. Prevailing winds have changed this weekend here. Tom Bonan up in that front group as well, as you can see. So, breakaway. Looks like it might be about to settle. Desperate last attempts to try and get men forward. At the moment, it's still quite stretched out, which suggests that there might be a presence or two up the top here that isn't to the liking of one or two of the teams. Still in French territory here, strictly. All the way back into Belgium after they come down the other side of the Harelbeke. And then we go towards our circuit racing. Get a look behind.
Interesting thing here, that our French colleagues are apparently using the word foi quite a lot during their commentary, which I suppose we haven't spoken about the cold too much. I mean, it is absolutely freezing conditions, -2, but with the headwind going in and the crosswinds that are, as you saw on every single piece of flat that we've seen so far, making such a difference to the state of the peloton and how strung out it's becoming. Really is tough bike racing conditions. And although, yes, people are talking up the chances of Mark Cavendish, they're talking up the chances of the sprinters, it's very hard work out there for all of the riders. As a consequence, who knows? I mean, it's unusual for Gent Wevelgem to be won by a solo breakaway inside the last 30, as we have another attack, this time from Vacances Soleil.
Fletcher looking to get away. He's been chased down by Grifko, I think it is at the moment. Certainly one of the national champions for Astana. In fact, it's the Kazakh champion, pardon me. So that peloton happy to be controlled at the minute. As you can see, the absence of the big teams such as BMC, Sky and Omega Pharma Quickstep from the front row there means that they're not too bothered about the composition of this break forming. First time gap then, 34 seconds, 85 kilometers to go, and we are approaching the Katsberg, our second climb of the day. It's been a very nervy start to the race today. Now we get to the Katsberg. Between 9 and 14% the gradient here. It's 500 meters long and just a difference of 45 meters.
We can see that it's 46 seconds between the lead group, the lead trio, and this the chasing main group, with plenty of Cannondale representation there. And as things currently stand, they will be hoping that they can do all of that work to lead Peter Sagan over the finish line. .81 kilometers still left to ride. Ice cold conditions, crosswinds, so many different factors that have had to be negotiated by the peloton, and it's certainly not usual to be experiencing this sort of weather at this time of year in Belgium.
Now this is our composition of the group. 3 breakaway riders. Juan Antonio Fletcher made the first move, as you'd expect from him. Ladagnou again followed, the rider in the blue and black in the middle of your screen. And the jersey on the right-hand side as they approach the Harelbeke is of Basayev, who's the Kazakhstani champion for Astana. 6.2 to 12% the ramps here. 1 minute and 21 seconds. A much more relaxed little attitude at the back here for BMC. Gilbert expected to be at the service of Torhusov today, according to media reports.
Now these riders are very close indeed to the start of the Kemmelberg. Well, first of all, of course, it's the Bannenberg.
Well, the first time up at the Bannenberg here. It's the rider from Astana, I should say, Almaty, pardon me, the former capital of Kazakhstan, who just moves off to the back now. Now, onto this thin road. This is where the peloton behind will have to be alert. Of course, they've been in a little laissez-faire sleep mode for the last few kilometres or so. And after this, it's just 8 kilometres before they head to the Kemmelberg. Kemmelberg and the Monteberg are two climbs that come within a couple of kilometres of each other. Kemmelberg, by the way, the highest point in West Flanders, 156 metres above sea level. 750 metres of this climb on cobbled stones. And Heinrich Hausler, it's good to see you. We wonder where you were. Bad news coming from back further in the course because Blanco have announced that several of their riders have abandoned. Rick Flens has gone, Sepp van Mark abandoned, Tanner and Mark Renshaw. And that is another man to count out of the sprint.
Fabian Cancellara has gone as well, along with Geraint Thomas. They stepped out at the feeding station, so another couple of riders who've elected not to continue. Fabian Cancellara, of course, a winner on Friday, and as I said, doesn't have any real history. Oh, this is bad news for Tom Bonen going down, and he looks in trouble. Not only is it a bad wheel that he needs to get replaced, but he's hurt himself as well here in a fall.
Tom Bonen down, just 7 days to go to the Tour of Flanders, and this is not good news at all as far as his spring is concerned. And it's Fletcher at the minute, desperate to keep the advantage out with his breakaway companions, who are Ladagnou in the black and blue of Française des Jeux, and in the white and turquoise of Astana, it's the national champion from Kazakhstan, Azan Basayev. Fletcher at the moment, though, showing that he is by far and away the stronger rider. Look at all these photographers on the side of the road. They're going to have to budge in a minute when the peloton comes. Edvard Boasson-Hagen just in front of Peter Sagan. Now watch, the race could be about to break up again here. 64 Ks to go, yes, but two climbs, one on the hot on the heels of each other. Sky with plenty of riders up the front. Omega Form, a quick step. Steiner Vandenberg just behind Matthew Heyman.
Getting news through that Tom Bonen has stopped and has abandoned. So he got back on his bike for all of 2 kilometres to take on the Kemmelberg once and then decided against it. You can see the chasing pack have the trio now firmly in their sights, and BMC continuing to push things along at the front here. It's BMC and Sky who have controlled so much of this main group. 34 seconds. And look how much it's being stretched out here behind. Stannard now coming to work up the front. BMC have Van Avermaet up there with him. Hausler's not too far away. And again, Française des Jeux rider involved. Arnaud Demar is going to be an interesting rider to watch out for. And there's a threat of a new chasing group forming. Hence the reason this gap continues to come down. Now going through Lockett as we head towards the Bannenberg for the second time. And this is a rather interesting development because there are some big names as far as the sprints are concerned. And look at the distance already that they're putting into the likes of Greipel and whoever might be left with them in that chasing group. Fletcher in the meantime, 14 seconds ahead. 13 now, the gap starts to fall as they're on the way up the Bannenberg for the final time. Had decent company, they worked hard, but they know it's over now. Sagan pedalling on at the front, and his national champion's jersey for Cannondale. Bernie Eisel on his wheel. Juan Antonio Fletcher just behind. There's Basayev and Hausler. Borut Bozic as well. Remember, 2 of the Astana riders there. They hit the cobbled section at the start of the Kemmelberg for the final time, and it is a group of 13.
Well, watch them fight it out here. All about positioning, all about rhythm as you get onto the cobblestones, and who will be the strongest. This is the launch pad for anybody who has to win from a breakaway. 20% in stages this. Sagan just churns away the pedals. No attempt from Vandenberg just yet. Neither Fletcher. It's good pressure from Fletcher as well. He's the man that's motoring on alongside Van Avermaet. Three strongest riders, the three we expected to be the strongest up the top here, as they're off the cobblestones. There's Pipo Pozzato. Heyman just beside him. And who can stay up here? Cavendish really driving it.
45 kilometres to go. Breakaway group pushed along at the front by Astana.
This is what's happening behind in the peloton. Omega Pharma Quick-Step starting to put something together. Sky up there as well. Pozzato's the only remaining Lampre man at the front. There's no sign of Alessandro Petacchi as they approach the Monteberg.
You get an idea now as to the distance between the two groups. It is looking like a healthy distance.
It is all to happen still here in Gent Wevelgem, and it all will happen. 1.5 minutes, just under anyway, as it creeps back up again. 31 Ks into Yper at the moment. Been back in Belgian territory for the last hour or so.
Well, Yper included on the route this year. 99 years since the First World War was based around Yper, and completely rebuilt, of course, the city. The tower there is the remain, but the rest all had to be repaired after the city of Yper was entirely decimated by the end of 1919 through all of the conflict during the First World War that took place in and around it. We've seen a huge tactical importance between the German forces and the Allies as it bridged the gap between both Germany's way into Northern Europe and the way that it was eventually protected by the Allied troops. And they will go past the Menin Gate soon, which is, of course, the gate there that they are going to go under, where all of the names of the unknown soldiers without graves from the First World War are scribed. All of the soldiers from the Commonwealth, that is, excluding New Zealand. They have a separate cemetery for all Anzacs who fought in the war. But coming through the Menin Gate there, where every day at 8 o'clock in the evening they still sound the last post. It's the duty of the fire brigade to do that, and the only time that stopped was during the Second World War.
And look at the crowd on the side of the road here. Great to see it building up. Great to see so many people braving these freezing temperatures. With a wind chill, we're talking well below freezing here today. This is the group that's up front, though. Burning Eyes, as I mentioned, Vandenberg, Bozic, Bodnar, Sagan, Ladagnu, Amador, as well as Heinrich Hausler, Jaroslav Popovic and Juan Antonio Fletcher.
You can see the difference between the two groups there, and that is, it's a fair old distance.
We haven't been with the back group for quite a while. Interesting to see what's going on as far as who's doing any work. And here we go, right on cue. BMC all grouped up together. Lotte have a couple of men together. Omega Pharma Quick-Step really lacking too many teammates, but Cavendish is still chatting away in the group. Edvard Boassenhagen is there as well. Geluva is where we head. 10 Ks to go, over a minute. It's still looking good for these guys, but it's by no means nailed on if the rate of closing the gap continues to be the same we've seen in the last K. It'd be nice to get a look back and see exactly what's happening in the group behind. Road Furniture comes up. According to the GPS, we're down to within a minute. And I think that must be correct, because Juan Antonio Fletcher's gone out the front and has really put his foot down now. 5 kilometers to go, wants to go under this next bit of furniture on the road. Our sponsors announcing that there's just 5,000 meters of racing remaining. 42 seconds is the difference. It's going to be difficult for the peloton when they come through these sort of chicanes on the cobbles again. In the narrow roads, I can tell it's a decent and wide enough finish for a bunch sprint here in the final few hundred metres. Mennen, the final town before we get to Wevelgem. Looking around here, I think for the moment they can just about afford to do so. And here's the attack. Steiner Vandenberg, he has to make a run. Fletcher will want to be on his wheel as well. Sagan doesn't want to let the opportunity go. Vandenberg and Fletcher have just this opportunity to win the race. Itlay wants to stay in with the opportunity of taking the sprint. Bozic is there as well. Difficult for Popovic, who's on the tails of everybody at the back. And you'd have thought as well that Amador would have wanted to be up in the move there.
It's clever play from Vandenberg, though, because by slowing down there, another 5-6 seconds trimmed off. Peter Sagan is having to attack now. Fletcher looks to respond. Sagan knows that he needs to push this along.
Peter Sagan going out himself as we get the first few cars out of your picture coming across the line now. And this is a surprising move from Sagan. Not wanting to wait for the sprint, Sagan has gone on his own. Well, is this Wyver, is it not? He wants to keep the gap up. He obviously feels strong enough. Sagan trying to perhaps distance any of those competitors who are thinking of having a dig at him.
Peter Sagan criticised for his poor adoption of tactics over recent weeks, over recent years, on occasion in the big races, seems to have got it absolutely spot on today. Van Avermaet sets off in pursuit.
Well, he has to do as well. Van Avermaet now going. Sagan approaching the kilometre to go, Barry, but it's Van Avermaet and, of course, Juan Antonio Fletcher behind. Popovic, Amador, Itlay. Oh, they're dithering, they're dillying, they're dallying, they're taking too long. And Peter Sagan has this one on a plate. Yes, we could say it's a decent tactical move for Sagan, but perhaps only so because of the poor tactical judgment of those behind and alongside him. 5 wins already this season as he strolls into 300 metres to go. Peter Sagan of Cannondale, the Slovakian national champion, second in San Remo, second in the E3 prize at Harelbeke, and today is going to be first as he soaks up the applause after 4.5 hours and lays down a huge marker with 7 days to go to the Tour of Flanders. Peter Sagan, a wheelie over the line. Typical celebration from him. And what a win for Peter Sagan. In the meantime, it's the sprint for the next places. Hausler is up there as well. He wants a second this time at least. Heinrich Hausler leading it up. Hausler ahead of Van Avermaet, but he's going to run out of steam. It's going to be Greg Van Avermaet or Borut Bozic, one of the two, to take second and third. And in the meantime, a little further behind, this is what's going to play out. Arnold de Maar leading it out. It's going to be Andre Greipel. Andre Greipel ahead of just about everybody else. Greipel against de Maar, and it's Greipel who wins the sprint from the group behind.
Peter Sagan, complimenti, fenomenale. Perché non hai aspettato lo sprint?
Oh, I'm very happy today. I have to thank my team and Bodnar in particular, who worked tirelessly on the front of the group. With my standing in the peloton now, it's difficult if I'm in a breakaway, as people don't really want to work and roll on through. So it was hard in places, and I was actually getting a bit angry once you're inside the final few kilometres. I wasn't actually sure what they were all waiting for. Did they want to contest a big sprint and leave all that lot behind? I can't understand that people really want to sprint against me, but of course we had to ride and keep going.
Allora sei anche favorito per il prossimo Giro delle Fiandre.
Well, I know that people will now say I'm the clear favourite to win the Tour of Flanders. That's great, I like that, but for me I've been the favourite since the start of the season, so it's no real difference. I'm just happy about today, and it's great to win a classic for the first time.
Come Bernard Hinault ha vinto Gent-Wevelgem.
Come?
Come Hinault, il francese, ha aperto un monumento.
Well, just like Bernard Hinault, I'm very close to my first monument. He won this race, and of course for the classics it's great. I'm so happy to be on the winners list now.
Grazie, complimenti.
Grazie.
So Peter Sagan reigns supreme in Wevelgem and picks up his first big classics win. For a change, not by out-sprinting his rivals, but simply by outriding them. Last year beaten by Bonen in the sprint, 12 months down the line it's a case of showman Sagan as he does it all on his own. The Slovakian national champion has a handsome lead at the top of the UCI World Rankings now. Today he beat Boris Buzic, Greg van Avermaet, Heinrich Hausler and Juan Antonio Fletcher. The top Belgian is Stijn van den Berg after Avermaet was the only local native on the podium. Well, Flanders Classics takes a week-long pause until the last day of the month now, when we'll see the battle that all this has been leading up to take place. The Ronde van Vlaanderen, the Tour of Flanders, will be there, and we certainly hope that you will join us for it is the biggest sporting event on the Belgian calendar. Until then, from us, goodbye.